Hey guys, Coach Krause here. Today I want to talk to you about a method of strength training that is very applicable to boxers, and that's going to be plyometrics, all right? Plyometrics is a great way to increase your fiber recruitment, your neuromuscular connection, and your overall speed of contraction. Now, I'm going to explain all that as we go on, all right? So, in the past, I've told you that your muscles can move three different ways. They can concentrically contract where your muscles get shorter. They can eccentrically contract where your muscles get longer. They can isometrically contract where the muscle contracts but there's no movement. Plyometrics links together concentric and eccentric movements as fast as possible, all right? And by doing this, you train your neuromuscular system to recruit as much muscle fibers for a given task as possible. So, let's take my bicep for example. Let's say it's not just one muscle. It's not just one thing. In fact, what it is many filaments, many muscle fibers that make up that entire muscle group. Just for the sake of argument, let's say there's 10,000 of those filaments here in my bicep. And when I reach into my refrigerator and there's a gallon of milk, well, my body goes, well, I need to recruit X amount of muscle fibers to pick that up. Maybe there's a cantaloupe or something that's much heavier in there. Well, my body's going to go, hey, we need to recruit more muscle fibers to pick up this object and have some sort of dexterity with it. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever reached in for that gallon of milk and you thought it was full and you go to reach it up and turns out it was empty and you pick it up way too quickly? Well, that's your body selecting too many muscle fibers for that task, and it was a little jerky, it was a little explosive. That is not so good for picking up milk in your refrigerator, but that is a great way for us boxers or athletes, combat athletes, to teach our body to be explosive and use maximal muscle recruitment for a given task, like punching, all right? And that's what we're gonna go over today in these cool exercises. So one of the basic go-to plyo exercises for your upper body would be a plyo push-up, all right? And it's basically me doing a push-up and having a release from the ground. You can imagine like a clapping push-up. A clap is not necessary, but a clap is a good way to make sure that you sprung off the ground enough. So I'll demonstrate a couple with a clap. One clap, two claps, three claps. If you really got that kind of strength in you, would be fine. Do a somewhat of a variation of this we call the Superman push-up, where I'm going to put my arms out in front of me. You'll see. Same concept. I'm trying to have that release from the ground come quickly and be as explosive as possible. And by trying to fit in the most amount of claps as I can, or overhead extension, that's ensuring me that I'm having those muscle groups work as hard as they possibly can. So one of the go-to lower body plyo exercises would be like a plyometric squat. And like I just demonstrated with that push-up before, there's got to be a release on the ground. I'd say there's a bit more technique involved in this one because my upper body has to be somewhat guiding the way that I move. But when you start getting that down, this is a great way to increase that fiber recruitment of your lower body. Now let me demonstrate. The trick with that one is to get your arms to help guide you and balance you as you load up your lower body for that squat. Another cool lower body one, a little bit leveling up from that traditional plyo squat, would be like a one-legged, I know you call it like a Bulgarian squat variation, but performed plyometrically. So let me demonstrate that. One foot's going to be on some sort of implement, a box behind me, something elevated. And I have to have that same counter motion with my arms to help guide me and to help balance me. And finally, I'll show you a cool plyo variation for your pulling muscles, your back muscles. This requires a lot of strength, so you build yourself up to this. And in fact, that's a good rule of thumb for all your plyometrics. You shouldn't be jumping into it. You should build your strength level to the place where this kind of stimulus is what you need to get you those gains and those adaptations that you seek out. Anyways, I'm going to do a plyo pull-up. There will be a release here, a little bit of a clap. We're leading right next to the next repetition. Things to remember about plyometrics is they should be explosive in nature. That being said, don't set up your rep scheme to have tons of reps where now endurance starts playing a factor. Typically at the gym, for a given plyometric exercise, I'll have them do 5 sets of pretty much no more than 6 repetitions. And the methodology behind keeping the repetitions low is that you can activate the most possible muscle fiber for a given rep, and then not start veering into endurance training where you're going to inevitably lower the intensity. Plyometrics is all about high intensity, all right? Also, that being said, if strength training in general is new to you, don't jump into plyo. It's not going to be right for you. You're not going to have the elegancy of those movements. You're not going to have the strength to properly perform them. And honestly, you don't need them because there's a number of base exercises that will get you just as much gains as you want, minus the injuries that can happen when you jump into plyometrics too early or have too much volume on it. Those of you that are advanced, those of you that can find a benefit in plyometrics, like I said, don't have a huge amount of volume on it. Do them when you're relatively fresh. You don't want endurance to play a factor. And give yourself plenty of time in between these bouts to recover. 3 days, 4 days, right? So maybe you want to start with once a week, building it up to twice a week, right? Even 3 times a week is really pushing it if you're doing these exercises properly. But if you are, you're going to notice a tremendous increase in your relative speed and your relative power. Like and subscribe.